Good day! This is Teacher Rowan. I'll be your guide in exploring Google Apps for education, for teaching and learning. In Google for Education, teachers can connect and collaborate easily while staying on task. It gives teachers the freedom to spend more time personalizing the learning experience and less time managing it. Students can learn essential skills such as 21st century problem solving, which they can use it in their future careers. As such, the accessibility features will also help and assist every learner to do their best work. Google offers different useful applications that we can use to connect education to technology. This will help our teachers as a 21st century educators to innovate and find ways on how to make teaching and learning more exciting, engaging, effective, and flexible to the demands of the society. Let's re-explore the education experience by discovering new angles to create, collaborate, and communicate as one. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, at para sa guro. Ang pagkatuto, huwag gawing komplikado. Sulong edukalidad.
Magandang araw, Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng DepEd Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del P. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Yan, it's another Friday and it's another Stats and Proba Day with Teacher Rev. So, let's keep the ball rolling. This is our 7th week, no? Onti na lang. We're almost on the end, no? Today, we're going to discuss about formulating appropriate null and alternative hypothesis on a population proportion. Maybe you're wondering, teacher, tapos na natin yan. Yes, we're done with the mean. Naalala nyo, mean ang diniscuss natin last time. Ngayon, itatry natin na paikliin yung discussion natin kasi ang focus naman natin ngayon is on population proportion. Diba? Sinasabi natin, 30% ng mga estudyante ay in favor of pure online learning. May mga ganong scenario tayo. So when we talk about this, we're talking about proportion. Proportion ng ng population. Because when we talk about it, no, and 99% of the students are confident that they are learning online. When you say this form, ayan, kapag ganyan yung sinabi natin, ibig sabihin, we are actually dealing with proportion. Yan. O diba, 99% are confident that they are learning online or they are learning through the different modalities in education nowadays. So that's a good thing. No? Yan yung isang bagay na kailangan nating matutunan. So today, we're going to focus first on some terminologies that we need to know. When we talk about claims about the population proportion, ito yung tinatawag nating hypothesis. Yan. Okay, medyo nagloloko lang yung pen tablet ni teacher. I-reconnect natin. Ayan. Ayan. Hindi pa rin siya connected. So, for a while. Yan. Yan yung tinatawag nating hypothesis. Okay. Then, from the hypothesis, sige, pakisulat na lang ha, para ma-note nyo. Yung tinatawag nating the blank hypothesis states that the proportion is equal to specific value or the hypothesized proportion of P sub 0 ang tawag natin. Ano nga yung P sub 0? Yun yung hypothesized proportion. Na kung saan doon natin sasabihin, okay, at this level of significance, eto, yan. Okay. Bakit kaya hindi pa rin siya gumagana, no? Wait lang ha, tingnan natin mabuti kung anong nangyari. Okay, while we're doing that, so ang null hypothesis pala, lagi siyang nag-specify ng equation. Okay, sige, while we're waiting, ayan, good afternoon sa ating mga kasama. Si Ma'am Ayuban, si Sir Salas, at saka si Ma'am Ricafort or Miss Ricafort. Yan, magandang hapon. Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit hindi ito nag-work ngayon. Ayan. Okay. Sige. For a while ha, re-restart ko lang tong natin, activity natin. Ayan. So, when we talk about alternative hypothesis, this time, yan naman, alternative naman. The alternative hypothesis is the competing claim. Pag sinabi natin competing claim, ito yung claim na opposite nung null. Pero, pareho lang ba yung sa null hypothesis tsaka sa alternative hypothesis when it comes to identifying yung ating equality at inequality? Oo, pareho lang. So, when we talk about equality, then that involves the null hypothesis. Pag naman ang pinag-usapan natin yung inequality, then this actually involves the what? The alternative hypothesis. So, walang equal sign sa null hypothesis. Walang equal sign sa alternative hypothesis. Laging inequality. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Ayan, nandito na, sinasabi natin na ang alternative hypothesis makes use of less than, greater than, or equal to. Okay, ayan. Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit, no? Ayan. Nag-stop siyang mag-work. Anyway, sige, wala naman tayong magagawa doon. Ito siya, yan yung alternative natin. Ito yung ating, pag gumamit tayo ng smaller, less, at saka decrease, fewer, or lower, yan, gumagamit tayo ng less than. Yan, kapag gumamit tayo ng less than, ito ang magiging statement natin kapag proportion. Teacher, so yung mean, ang ginamit nating symbol doon ay mu, sa proportion, ang gagamitin natin ay ito. Okay, for a while ha, i-close ko lang to. And bakit, teacher? Kasi nga medyo kailangan nating i-reboot yung ating system regarding dun sa pen tablet. Okay, yan. O, para nakikita nyo na, ito yung ginagamit ko. Maraming nagtatanong, no, ano tong system na ginagamit ni teacher. Ito yung Mimeo Studio. This is free. Ida-download nyo lang siya. Okay, lalo na sa ating mga guro, napakalaking tulong to, lalo na sa guro ng mathematics, no? Nakita nyo naman kung paano ko siya ginamit mula nung simula hanggang ngayon. Yan. Magandang tanghali po, Pres Castanares. Yan. Sa ating discussion ngayong hapon. Okay, so ito siya. Yan. Okay. So, we're done already with that. Ito yung pinakita ko kanina. Pag small, less, or decrease, or fewer, or lower, ang ginagamit natin ay itong inequality symbol na to. At ito ang magiging alternative statement natin. Kapag naman ang ginamit natin larger, greater, more, or increase, ito naman ang magiging statement natin on alternative hypothesis. At kapag naman ang ginamit natin different, not equal to, or change, yan yung nakita natin, ibig sabihin wala siyang direction. So, non-directional siya. So, ang gagamitin natin ay not equal to. Teacher, pareho lang ba yung sa proportion at saka pareho lang ba yung sa mean? Kasi for the past few weeks, puro mean ang pinag-uusapan natin. Ngayon naman, puro proportion. Sana matapos natin hanggang next week, di ba? Pero na-appreciate ko yung kasama natin linggo-linggo on our discussion, no? Ayan. Ayan. Kaya lang, talagang ayaw niya. Okay, kanina pa to. Okay, itatry ko na lang magsulat using this. Pero buti na lang na natin to, masusolusyonan. Okay, when we talk about one-tailed, we are actually dealing with alternative hypothesis na gumagamit ng less than at greater than symbol. So, ibig sabihin, teacher, pag one-tailed siya, katulad sa mean, alternative hypothesis natin contains greater than or less than symbol. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, when we talk about this, ang discussion natin will focus on a one-tailed. Pero take note, sa alternative hypothesis tayo titingin. Okay. Kung sa alternative hypothesis tayo titingin, ayan. Kung sa alternative hypothesis tayo titingin, ang kailangan nating gawin is make sure na greater than or less than yung ginamit doon. Okay, another thing. Kapag naman directional siya or right-tailed or left-tailed siya, one-tailed pa rin yon. Kaya siya tinawag na one-tailed or directional kasi nga merong direksyon na patutunguhan. Yung proportion ba ay mas mataas sa ine-expect natin or mas mababa sa ine-expect natin. So, ganun siya. Now, when we talk about two-tailed naman, ayan. These are alternative hypothesis contains the inequality symbol and equal to. Okay, teacher. So, pag ganyan, two-tailed yan. And another thing, it has no direction. So, pag sinabi nating wala siyang direksyon, definitely, literal, hindi sinabi kung greater than or less than. Pero what's sure is that iba siya dun sa pre-post or iba siya dun sa nakalagay na activity. Ganun pala yung teacher. Yes. So, the next thing that we have to identify is tingnan na natin yung proseso, no? So, sinasabi natin na kapag when we talk about null hypothesis, two-tailed siya, two-tailed test ang gagamitin natin. Ito ang flow ng null hypothesis natin at alternative hypothesis natin. HA dapat to. Yan, paki-check na lang ha. This is alternative. Yan. Dapat A yan. Okay, ngayon, when we talk about right-tailed test, ito naman yung ating takbo. Pwedeng equal or pwedeng less than or equal to ang ating null hypothesis. Pero ang alternative hypothesis natin ay greater than, dito tayo titingin. Kapag greater than ang alternative, automatic right-tailed test yan. Kasi yung pre-post or yung expected nating proportion ay mas malaki dun sa ibinigay sa or dun sa claim. Halimbawa sinabi sa claim, 60% ng mga estudyante confident on their learning sa online classes. Pero in reality, 90% pala. So, mas mataas siya. Yung proportion niya ay mas mataas kaysa dun sa expected. Okay ba? Ayan. So, ayan. Good afternoon, Nelly Garcia. Ayan. Next is yung left-tailed test. When we talk about the left-tailed test, ganun din. Pero ang titingnan natin or ang focus natin is yung dulo, no? Yung dulo natin, yung dulo ng activity natin. Na kung saan, kung titingnan nyo sa activity natin, sa dulo natin, less than yung ginamit niya sa alternative hypothesis. Ganun pala yung teacher. Yes, ganun. Ganun siya. So, yan. Okay. Gets ko na, teacher. Okay. Next. When we talk about this, ito na yung sinasabi natin, no? Medyo may difficulty lang ako sa pen tablet natin, kaya medyo magulong sulat. Or pwedeng sasabihin ko na lang, ipapakita ko na lang yung PowerPoint version nito. Meron kasi akong prepare na PowerPoint din para dito. Okay, open ko lang siya. Ayan. Okay. So, sa PowerPoint version, mamaya ipapakita ko kung nasa na tayo. Papakita ko rin yung dito. Tatry ko naman siyang isulat muna. Okay, now, if you're going to look at this problem, teacher, gets ko na. Kasi yung problem last time is on proportion. Now, tingnan natin tong problem na to para ma-differentiate natin. Ano ba yung difference nito? Bakit kailangan ulitin natin yung sa null alternative hypothesis compared dun sa last time? Kasi yung last time, ang pinag-uusapan natin ay ano? Ang pinag-uusapan natin ay mean. This time, ang pag-uusapan natin ay proportion. Okay, teacher. So, ano yung mangyayari dito? Ano yung kakalabasan ng flow natin? Okay, eto na siya. So, when we talk about this, ayan, nawawala, no? Okay. It has been claimed that 40% of the students in a particular senior high school dislike mathematics. Naku, okay, kinuha ko to dun sa example natin dun sa Region 4. Pero, totoo kaya yan? Ayan, yan yung claim, no? So, it has been claimed. So, na-claim lang naman yan. And we know that actually mathematics is a challenging subject. Although it's challenging, okay lang yun. Kayang-kaya naman yan ng mga estudyante natin. Okay, so yun yung claim. Definitely, this will be our hypothesis. This will be our null hypothesis. Na kung saan, in our null hypothesis, we can say that P is equal to 0.40. Okay, teacher. Ayan, medyo nahihirapan si teacher. Dito ko na nga lang kukunin sa PowerPoint. Yan. So, nandito siya. Yan. Nandito naman na. Prepare ko na rin yan. Ayan. So, meaning, teacher, 0.40 pala siya. Yes. Okay. I-ano ko na lang to. Drag ko na lang to kasi bigla siyang hindi nag-connect. Okay lang yan. Gagawa natin yan ng paraan. So, ibig sabihin, teacher, 0.40 ang alternative hypothesis natin. Yes, kasi yun yung claim. When a survey was conducted by a researcher, so another researcher conducted a survey. It showed, anong pinakita? That 145 out of 800 students dislike mathematics. Test if the claim was different at 0.05 level. Mamaya natin buuin lahat. For now, magfo-focus muna tayo dun sa null and alternative hypothesis. And let's identify anong klaseng test ito. Okay. So, liliitan ko na lang yan para, okay, para medyo surprise, no? But basically, when we talk about this, ito ang ating magiging alternative hypothesis. Ayun. Okay. Ayan. So when we talk about this will be our alternative hypothesis. Ayun, teacher. Okay. So, ang alternative hypothesis natin ay greater. Bakit kaya greater? It showed that 145 test if the claim is different. Ay, okay. Iba pala to. Example 3 na pala yan, teacher. Nasa example 1 pa lang tayo. Okay. Okay lang yan. So, teacher, parang mali yan kasi ang keyword natin ay different. So, when we talk about difference, then our alternative hypothesis would make use of not equal to. Okay. Now, sige nga, ask ko yung mga kasama natin ngayong hapon. If this will be our alternative hypothesis, ano sa palagay natin? Ito ba ay one-tailed or two-tailed? Ay, importante rin pala yan, teacher, when we talk about this. Yes, this is important when we talk about this item. So, ano sa palagay natin? Will this be a one-tailed or two-tailed test? Non-directional siya. So, teacher, definitely ito ay, ano kaya? Yan. Sino yung pwedeng tumulong sa atin? Yan. You can share your thoughts here sa chat natin. Kung ang sagot nyo ay, teacher, ito ay two-tailed test, then your answer is correct. Yan. Actually, kahit hindi natin i-formulate tong null at alternative hypothesis, kayang-kaya nating sabihin na two-tailed siya. Ano ang keyword? Test if the claim was different. From the word different, it's non-directional. Okay, hindi natin sinasabi kung greater or less ba siya. So, basta ang alam lang natin, iba ang claim. Hindi 40% yung totoong percentage. Yun yung sinasabi nitong claim na to. So, if that's the case, this is a two-tailed test. Katulad nung sa nauna, hihimay-himayin ulit natin to. Okay, sige. O yan, clear na yan, teacher. Let's go to our second example. A certain senior high school plans to open. Yan. Plans to open STEM or Science and Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics as an academic track. Only if, okay, mag-open daw siya ng STEM, if 60% of the students in their junior high school will enroll on the following academic year. A survey conducted among a random sample of students revealed that 450 out of 1,000 students will enroll. Is the expected enrollment significantly lower than the desired enrollment? Okay. So, sinasabi dito na definitely yung 60%, yun yung basis. So, ano kaya ang ating alternative hypothesis, ang ating null hypothesis? Ang null hypothesis natin ay, yan. Anyone who can help? A teacher, ang percentage ay equal saan? Equal po siya sa 0.60. Okay. Equal nga ba sa 0.60? Correct. That's our null hypothesis. Bakit? Kasi yun yung magiging basis natin para mag-open tayo ng STEM track. Ngayon, a survey conducted among, is the expected enrollment significantly lower? Ayan. Sige, bago tayo mag-conclude, kung nakalagay significantly lower dito, yun yung tanong is the expected enrollment significantly lower? Kung significantly lower siya, ano kaya ang ating type ng test? O, doon ako nauna no, sa type ng test kasi may keyword tayo, significantly lower. Will this be one-tailed or two-tailed? Ano sa palagay natin? Ayan, sana hintayin ko yung mga response natin, no? Teacher, kung ang sagot nyo is, teacher, this is one-tailed. Bakit? Teacher, may direction. Ano yung sinabi sa direction? Lower than po. So, kung ang direction ay lower than, definitely, we're going to have a one-tailed test. At kung one-tailed test yan, ito ay left-tailed. Yan. At kung left-tailed ito, ano kaya ang ating alternative hypothesis? Ang ating alternative hypothesis, from the word lower than, will make use of the less than sign. So, the alternative hypothesis is that P is less than 0.60. Therefore, it's a left-tailed test. Okay. Gets ko na yan, teacher. Good. O sige, isa pa. Sabi dito, tama si Miss Ann, no? Si Miss Ann. Thank you din. And good afternoon, Miss Ann. Yan. Nandiyan na din si Miss Nelly Garcia at si Pres Castanales. Good afternoon po. It has been claimed that 40% of qualified applicants passed in a particular job interview. So yun. Sinabi, claim siya. So definitely, a teacher, claim will always speak of the null hypothesis. Pero syempre, titingnan muna natin. Claim that 40%. So gagamit tayo ng equal sign. Okay. Gagamit tayo, teacher, ng equal sign. Tinakpan ko no? Para kasi medyo hindi nag-work yung ating pen tab. Okay. Alternative na yan, teacher. Okay, let's take a look at our. Yan. Ang ating null hypothesis is that P is equal to 0.40. Tama. Ngayon, paano natin i-construct ang ating alternative hypothesis? Let's go back to the problem. When a survey was conducted by a researcher of a certain company, it showed that 90 of 145 applicants passed the job interview. Teacher, paano yan? Wala naman tayo niyan. Okay lang yan. Mamaya gagamitin natin yan. For now, hindi muna. Okay? Kasi nag-identify pa lang naman tayo ng null and alternative hypothesis. Pero anong gusto nating i-test? Test if the claim was larger. So may keyword na naman tayo. Gusto raw natin malaman kung yung claim ay larger. Ayan. Okay. So kung larger siya, anong mangyayari, teacher? Kung larger siya, ayan. Sabi larger. Kung larger siya, then we expect a bigger value. Therefore, based on this context, is it one-tailed or two-tailed? Ano kaya? Sige po, tulong tayo. Ano sa palagay natin yung sagot dito? Definitely, the answer would be, yes, the answer would be a one-tailed test. Bakit? Direction na, okay. One-tailed test kasi ang ano natin ay larger. Okay, because of the keyword larger, then we expect that the alternative hypothesis will be greater than the proportion of 40%. Yun yung gusto nating i-claim, no? Yun yung gusto nating malaman kung larger nga ba. So that will speak of our alternative hypothesis. Kaya siya naging one-tailed siya or two-tailed, kaya siya naging one-tailed pala kasi directional siya because we're talking about a larger value. Pareho lang rin naman siya sa dati nating diniscuss on mean. Only dito, proportion ang ginagamit natin. And take note, pag naka-percent siya, lagi siyang i-decimal form. Okay, so 0.40. Good. Next tayo, example 3 o practice tayo. Paunahan ha. To use plastic over paper bags after the local ordinance was signed, 92 out of 120 randomly selected vendors. Parang kulang yung problem na yan. Sige. Kulang ito. To use kasi ayan phrase na siya. Sige, punta tayo sa practice number 2. The school principal in a certain private junior high school claimed that 35% of all students are in favor of the new PE uniform. Wow, may bago silang PE uniform. Parang ang mga teachers nyo, kaming mga teachers, kung may nakikinig sa atin, no, tayo na yung kami yung may bagong uniform ngayong taon. No? A research teacher asked his students to verify the claim. So yung isang research teacher, inask niya, verify nga natin yung claim kung tama na 35% nga talaga ay in favor. So with this, 271 out of 400 randomly selected students agreed to the new PE uniform. Ang gusto niyang malaman, dyan sa 271 out of 400 ba yan? Masasatisfy niya ba yung condition na 35,000? Yun yung inaalam natin dito, no? Using alpha level at 0.10, is there enough evidence to conclude that the percentage of students who are in favor of the new PE uniform is different from the 35%? Is this one-tailed or two-tailed? Yan. O yun naman muna, unahin natin yon bago yung alternative and null hypothesis natin. Ano kaya to? One-tailed or two-tailed? And the answer is? Ayan. The answer is two-tailed. Ano yung keyword natin? Our keyword is the word different. Yan. Pero, start tayo dun sa ano naman ngayon ang magiging null at alternative hypothesis natin? Siyempre, we're going to start with a claim. O ano ba yung claim? Ang claim natin is that, sabi dito, 35%. Yan, okay. Now, if 35%, yan, sana nakukuha natin, no? Kung 35% siya, that means the alternative hypothesis would be, the null hypothesis would be, ayan, the null hypothesis would be P, yan pala yung kanina. Okay. Bakit 65, teacher? Ito mahirap pag wala yung pen tablet natin, no? Okay, yan. This would be, yan. The null hypothesis is P is equal to 0.35. Wow, galing ah. Now, ano ang ating alternative hypothesis? Yan. Since the word is different and it talks about two-tailed test, therefore, anong gagawin natin, teacher? Therefore, our alternative hypothesis would make use of what? Of an equal sign. Kasi nga, different lang, wala siyang direction. So, this will be our alternative hypothesis where P is not equal to 0.35. Pero hindi niya, paano natin malalaman kung mas mataas ba or mas mababa? Hindi naman natin yun gustong alamin. Gusto lang nating alamin based sa problem, iba ba or different ba from the given? Okay, teacher. Gets ko na yung part na yan. Okay. Since gets na yan, continue na tayo. Okay. Now, let's take a look at another item. Ayan. Okay. Ayan. Let's take a look at that item. Okay, medyo nagkaroon lang tayo kanina ng problema. So, P is not equal to 35. Yan yung alternative hypothesis natin. Nagiging klaro na ba? Sige, last practice. Practice pa tayo. A researcher found out that 5% of the senior high school students in a certain school are working students. So yung 5% working students sila. Exactly. If 5% are working student, sabi dito, a researcher randomly selected 35 out of 300 students who are working. Tanong, is there a percentage increase in the number of senior high school students who are working? So, okay teacher, isa-isa lang. What I know is that meron akong 5%. Yan, 5% ng senior high school students ko are working students. That's the first thing. Pero gusto kong malaman, ano yung gusto nating malaman? Gusto nating malaman, is there a percentage increase? Increase ang pinag-uusapan natin ngayon. So when we talk about increase, okay, pag sinabi nating increase, are we talking about one-tailed test or two-tailed test? Yan. Ano muna yung ating null? Sige, start tayo with the null. The null hypothesis would be, yan, that the value or the proportion is equal to 0.05. Yan yung proportion ng mga estudyante na working at this time. Now, tinatanong natin, may increase ba? So, yun ang magiging alternative hypothesis natin ngayon. Is there an increase? Therefore, the alternative hypothesis would be an increase of 0.05. Wow. So, is this a one-tailed test or a two-tailed test? Definitely, this is a one-tailed test. Particularly, kung one-tailed test to, ito ba ay right-tailed or left-tailed? Yan. Ito ay, since greater than ang ginamit natin, ito ay one-tailed test and this is a right-tailed test. O, di ba? Ayan, ayaw niya talagang mag-work. Nalungkot na ako. Okay, continue na tayo. Okay, this time, sabihin natin kung one-tailed or two-tailed without identifying the null and alternative hypothesis. So, sige, i-check up natin to. Okay, so challenge to sa ating lahat. First things first, a drug manufacturer claims that fewer than 10% of patients who takes its new drug for treating certain pneumonia will experience nausea. So, meaning 10%. Fewer than 10%. Paano yung fewer than 10%? Less than 10%. Okay, in a random sample of 250 patients, 23 experienced the said nausea. Perform a significant test at 5% significance level to test this claim. So paano yun, teacher? Saan babagsak si fewer than? Yan. Si fewer than ay babagsak saan? Sa alternative hypothesis. So, is this a one-tailed test or a two-tailed test? Ano sa palagay natin? Ito ay, definitely it's one-tailed test and the keyword is fewer than, therefore, it is a what? A left-tailed test. Sige, isa pa, teacher. In a group of 375 senior high school students, 40 were left-handed. Is this significantly different from the proportion of all senior high school? Will this talk about one-tailed or two-tailed? First things first, ano ang keyword? Different. Ayan, ayaw niya, no? The keyword would be different. If it's different, will this be a one-tailed test or a two-tailed test? Pag sinabing different, magkaiba. Tanong, may direction ba yan? Pag sinabi bang different from the 12%, ha? Will it be a one-tailed test or a two-tailed test? Yes, it's a two-tailed test. Kasi pag sinabi nating different, pwedeng mas mataas or pwedeng mas mababa. Okay. Ayan. So, next. Ayan, nakuha na natin, no, na kumbaga naka-equal footing na tayo on this part. Let's go to the other one. A sample of 800 items produced on a new machine showed that 48 of them are defective. Okay. Out of 800 sample daw. So, from the keyword na sample, hindi yan yung percentage na hinahanap natin. Kasi sabi a sample eh. Kailangan proportion natin is galing sa population. So, next, continue tayo. The factory will get rid of the machine if the data indicates that the proportion of defective items is significantly more than 5%. Halimbawa, ganito yun. Nag-produce kayo ng machine. Tapos, sinasabi dito na yung napoproduce niyang product ay defective. 5% nun ay defective. Pero sinabi dito na yung machine daw, kumbaga kung bibili ng machine, no, bibili kayo ng machine, hindi daw bibilin or hindi raw ipopurchase or hindi ipoproduce yung machine na yun kung significantly more than 5%, mas mataas sa 5% ang napoproduce niyang defective items. Okay. Anong keyword natin dito para masabi natin kung one-tailed or two-tailed ang ating alternative hypothesis? The keyword is more than. More than 5%. Oh, teacher, alam ko na. Kung more than 5% ang keyword natin, will it be one-tailed or two-tailed? Kung ang sagot nyo ay one-tailed, that's correct. One-tailed siya, definitely, but because of the keyword more than, is it left-tailed or right-tailed? And the answer would be right-tailed. Kasi pag gumamit tayo ng more than, mas mataas, ibig sabihin nasa right tail siya ng distribution. Kung naintindihan nyo na kung paano mag-formulate yan, then yan yung unang step para makapag go through tayo ng hypothesis testing when a proportion is given. Last time kasi, ang given ay mean. Ngayon naman, proportion. Yan, yun yung pagkakaiba ng discussion natin. No? Baka kasi magulat kayo. So next, alam na natin mag-identify ng left tail, right tail. Alam na rin natin mag-identify ng given. The next thing that we have to identify is the rejection region. Okay, paano yung rejection region, teacher? Okay, when we talk about rejection region, ayan, there are two ways to test the hypothesis. Sabi nga dito, may two ways daw. Ano yung two ways na yon para mag-test ng hypothesis? Yung tinatawag nating, okay. Ayan. Using the, ayan, critical value approach. At meron pang isang approach na sinasabi na pwede natin gamitin. Yun yung tinatawag nating p-value approach. Yan. Seldom do we use p-value approach. Bakit? Mas familiar na kasi tayo sa critical value approach. So, uunahin muna natin i-discuss. So, ulitin natin. Ang rejection region ng proportion ay may dalawang ways ng pagkuha or pag-test ng hypothesis. Gamit ang critical value approach at gamit ang p-value approach. This time, let's focus first on critical value approach. Yan. Paano ginagamit yung critical value approach? First, okay, lakayan ko lang ng konti. We will consider the rejection region with the critical value approach. Given that the critical value enables us to reject or not the null hypothesis, also it is calculated through alpha, okay, alpha levels and symbolized by Z or Z sub tab. Okay, sige, susulat ko na, ilalagay ko na lang yun ha. Dapat kasi susulat yan ni teacher. Z or Z sub tab. Yan, ganyan natin sinusulat. Yan. Okay, teacher. Or Z tab, yan yung basa lang dyan, no? So, paano natin yan makukuha, teacher? Paano natin makukuha yung critical value na yan? So, when we look at this, okay, the hypothesis that less than 20% of the population are right-handed, for instance, paano natin yan ipapakita? Okay, from the keyword natin ay less than 20%. O, tulungan tayo when we talk about less than 20%. Nasaan yan? Left-tailed or right-tailed? One-tailed or two-tailed pala muna? One-tailed ba yan or two-tailed? Pag ganyan, may keyword tayo na less than 20%. Definitely, ito ay one-tailed kasi sinasabi dito the hypothesis that less than 20% of the population are right-handed. Okay, hindi ibig sabihin right-handed, right-tailed na yan. Hindi. Pero sinasabi natin less than 20%, that's one-tailed, teacher. Tama kayo doon, one-tailed, very good. Pero ano siya? Okay, kung one-tailed siya, left-tailed ba to or right-tailed? Pag ang keyword natin ay less than 20%. Okay, so, teacher, left-tailed siya. Correct. Left-tailed ito na kung saan, okay, ang alternative hypothesis natin will be, galing ang active naman ni Miss Anne. Yan, thank you so much for participating, no? Yan. The given would be, yan, less than 0.2 or less than 20%. So, didelete ko na to kasi nga, para mag-function tayo. If we're going to look at it, eto siya. The rejection region would be the alpha. Ano yung ibig sabihin nun, teacher? Ito yung proportion nyo. Di ba remember, proportion is the shaded area. Yan yon. Rejection region natin ay alpha. Non-rejection region would be this. At etong line na to, yan yung tinatawag nating Z sub tab. Okay. Bakit ganon, teacher? Or Z? Yan yung tinatawag nating Z. Remember, this is proportion. Hindi natin pwedeng gamitin yung ginamit nating formula ng Z doon sa mean dito. Bakit? Wala namang mean na binigay dito. Ang binigay dito ay proportion. Okay. Gets ko na, teacher. Yan, gets na natin, no? Okay. Yan, maraming salamat, no? Ang active ni nakakatuwa at yung iba din, no? Maraming salamat sa pag-participate natin. Okay. And then, the next thing that we have to identify is, okay, alam na natin yan. So, alam na natin na ito si Z sub tab or ito si Z. Yan. Yan yung critical value based dun sa given proportion. So, paano ba natin kinahanap si rejection region? We can actually find the rejection region by what? Okay. By the Z value. The Z separates the score into two regions. So, ibig sabihin, etong Z value natin, yan, katulad nung critical value din sa mean, ito ay nagsiseparate ng curve into two regions. The shaded part is the critical region or rejection region, while the non-shaded part is the acceptance region or the non-rejection region. So, ibig sabihin, yung shaded part natin, ito yung tinatawag nating rejection region. Pareho lang pala, teacher. Yes, pareho lang. Pero pag i-identify kung paano siya, yun medyo magkaiba doon, no? And tinatawag nating critical non-rejection region or acceptance region naman yung tinatawag nating unshaded part. Yan. Or yung non-shaded part ng distribution natin. Nasaan yun? Ito yun. Itong shaded part, rejection region. Again, yung non-shaded part is the non-rejection region or the acceptance region. Pero yung decision natin, ganun pa rin. Fail to reject and then reject. Kaya nga lang, ang given dito ay proportion. Yan. Okay, gets ko na, teacher. So, ano yung characteristic ng critical value or Z? It separates the rejection region from the acceptance region. Tama. It is derived from the level of significance and expressed as a standard Z value. Correct. And it symbolizes by Z subtab. Okay, alam na natin yan, teacher. Next. Ito ulit. Nagbalik siya, teacher. Yes, yan ulit yung table na gagamitin natin, no? Yan pa rin pala, teacher. Yes. So, hindi kayo maliligaw sa discussion natin on rejection region. Pero i-recall lang natin, ano nga yung level of significance? When we talk about level of significance, ito yung degree of significance in which we reject or do not reject the null hypothesis. The basis of the critical or rejection region dictates the alternative hypothesis. Dun pala yun, teacher. Yes, yung basis ng rejection region natin or yung critical region, yun yung nagdidictate ng ating alternative hypothesis. Yan. Di ba kung napapansin nyo dun sa mga example kanina, sabi, the given is less than, in 10% level of significance, verify that. Pag ganun, ibig sabihin, yun yung ating rejection region or critical region. Okay. Ganun lang pala yun, teacher. Oo, ganun lang siya. Madali lang siya actually. Okay. Next. The following are common values of statistical significance. Katulad din sa mean, 0.01, sinasabi highly significant. Yan. 0.05, statistically significant. At 0.10, significant. Wow! Okay. Next. Yan. Let's take a look at this. Ano kayang magiging sagot natin dito, teacher? So, I'll go to page 26. Ayan. Sabi dito, a sample of 100 students is randomly selected from Pinagpala High School and 18 of them said they are left-handed. So 18 out of 100 ay left-handed. So, yung sample na 100, so yung proportion hindi manggagaling sa 18 out of 100. But rather, I need to continue reading. Sabi dito, test the hypothesis that less than 20% of the students are left-handed by using alpha equal to 0.05 as the level of significance. Identify the level of significance. Naku, napakadali nito. Chicken ito sa inyo. Ano kaya ang level of significance natin dito? Ayan. Teacher, nakabisado ko na yan last time. Ang level of significance natin ay yung alpha 0.05. Correct. Yan yung level of significance. Pero hindi yan yung proportion na baka magkamali kayo. Yan lang yung level of significance natin. Okay. Ngayon, so kung yan yung level of significance, balikan natin, statistically significant pala ang pinag-uusapan natin dito. Okay. Sige, continue tayo. Formulate the alternative hypothesis. Sabi dito, yung alternative hypothesis ay based sa significance at dun sa magiging claim. So, kung titingnan natin, may keyword na ulit tayo for the alternative hypothesis. Ano kaya yung keyword natin dito? Test the hypothesis that less than 20%. Ayan. So, kung less than 20%, ano kaya ang ating alternative hypothesis dito? Ano sa palagay natin? Ay, teacher, sigurado ako may 0.2. Tama, 0.2 kasi 20%, no? Ngayon, yung 0.2 na yun, ano kayang kasama niya? Will it be P is equal to, P is greater than, or P is less than 0.20? Ano sa palagay natin? If our answer is P, okay, for a while. Ayan, no? Ayan. P is less than 0.20, then that's correct because that speaks already of the thing that you want to test. Ganun lang pala yun, teacher. Yes, ganun lang siya. So, madali lang yan, teacher. Oo, kayang-kaya nyo naman to. Question number 3. Yan. Ano daw yung rejection region natin? Para malaman natin yung rejection region natin, dalawang bagay ang kailangan alam natin. Yung alpha, ano nga yung alpha natin? Alam naman natin ang alpha natin ay ano? 0.05. Okay, so kung 0.05, alam ko ang alpha ko ay 0.05. Therefore, ito yon. Okay. Ito yung teacher. Ayan. Okay, very good. Now, next, alam natin na gumamit tayo sa alternative hypothesis ng less than sign. Kapag gumamit tayo ng less than sign, tanong, ito ba ay left-tailed or right-tailed? One-tailed or two-tailed? Definitely one-tailed kasi may direction. Tanong, is this left-tailed or right-tailed? Galing ha. Less than. Okay, is this left-tailed or right-tailed? Teacher, ito po ay left-tailed. Tama. Ito ay left-tailed. So, dito sa ating significant value, titingnan natin si left-tailed. Teacher, so left-tailed and 0.05, the answer is negative 1.645. Then that will be our critical value. Oh, gets ko na, teacher. Yan yung answer dun sa question ng letter C. Okay. What will be the critical value? The critical value would be Z is equal to negative 1.645. How do we denote that? Then we denote that as Z is equal to negative 1.645 or Z tab. Okay, wait lang para mas maganda. Okay. Di bale. Next week, ayos na yung pen tab. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Okay. Ayan. So, if we're going to write that, we're going to write it as Z tab. Ayan. Is equal to negative 1.645. Ayan pala yung tinatawag na critical value, teacher. Yes, that's what we call the critical value. And that's how we get it from the Z distribution. Ayan. Okay. Next. Now, how are we going to construct our rejection region? Okay. Definitely, sabi dito, left-tailed siya. Okay. Other than left-tailed, sinasabi rin natin ang alpha niya ay 0.05. So, kung idodrawing natin siya, okay, ang magiging region natin ay, okay, sana maging straight ang drawing ko. Okay, nandito. Okay. Hindi pa rin, teacher. Hindi, kakopy ko na lang. Kasi nga, ano na. Anyway, okay lang yan. Yun, no? Ayan. So, ayan na ngayon yung ating rejection region. Any value of C that you're going to compute that will be lower than negative 1.645, that will be the rejection region. Gets ko na, teacher. At yung negative 1.645 is our critical value. Uulitin natin. Paano natin siya nakuha? Babalikan ko, ha? Meron tayong problem, nagbigay siya ng proportion na test natin yung hypothesis natin na less than 20%. Therefore, nakapag-formulate tayo ng alternative hypothesis. Unang tanong, tinanong yung level of significance. Alam natin na 0.05 kasi yung level of significance at itong alternative hypothesis, yan yung importante sa pag-identify ng ng critical region or rejection region. Paano natin na-identify yung critical region? Alam natin na 0.05, alam din natin na left-tailed siya. Since alam natin tong dalawang bagay na to, kinuha natin yung intersection and that's the critical value. Therefore, para ma-visualize natin, gumawa tayo ng normal ng normal curve kasi z ang ginamit natin, no? Z tab yan. Therefore, if we're going to look at this, negative 1.645 siya, teacher. So, anything lower than, ang masosolve nating z, anything na masolve nating z na lower than negative 1.645, our decision from that will be to reject the null hypothesis kasi nga, nandun siya sa rejection region. Pero, kung ang masosolve natin mas mataas kaysa sa negative 1.645, definitely, it will be in the non-rejection region. Gets ba? So, yan sana naintindihan, no? Sige, last na to. Okay, last na. Let's identify. The claim is made that 40% of tax filers use computer software to file their taxes. In a sample of 50 tax filers, 14 used computer software to file their taxes. Filers pala yun. Okay. If the alternative hypothesis is less than 0.40, hindi na pala tayo pinahirapan ito eh. Binigay na yung null hypothesis na less than 0.40 at alpha level of 0.025, where P is the population proportion who use computer softwares to file their taxes, determine the critical value Z tab, and illustrate the rejection region in the normal curve. Okay. So, binigay na. Ito na yung alternative hypothesis natin. Ayan. The alternative hypothesis is P is less than 0.40 and the alpha to, is 0.025. Therefore, titignan na lang natin dun sa activity natin, no? Dun sa table. Okay. Ayan. Titingnan na lang natin dun sa table, no? Pag tinignan natin sa table, we're going to find out na, okay, medyo naglalag na naman siya. Sige. I'll close this up and look at the PowerPoint presentation na. Okay. Slideshow. Current. Okay. If we're going to look at this, the rejection region, if that's the case, would be anything to the left. Yan, ng 1.645, no? Continue tayo. Ito yung problem kanina. So, baka no naging 1.96, teacher? Let's take a look at that. Yon. Balik tayo dun sa table. Okay. Alam natin na ito ay left-tailed. Alam natin na ang alpha ay 0.025. Babalikan natin yung table. Ito si alpha, 0.025, at left-tailed siya. So, negative 1.96 ang value niya. Therefore, kung titignan natin dito sa naging sagot natin, okay? Naging sagot natin, ang z-tab niya ay negative 1.96. If we're going to visualize that, this will be the value. The alpha, remember, is the area to the left, to the rejection region. Yun yung area niya. Naaalala ba natin yun, the proportion? Okay. Now, this will be your rejection region. At ang value ng rejection region natin, yung borderline na to, yung z niya, critical value natin, ay negative 1.96. Siguro hanggang dito na lang muna tayo. Definitely next week, I'll work these things out, no? Pero hindi ko na siya isa-save. So, if we're going to look at this scenario, ayan. Madali na lang naman to. Then we're going to have another example next week. Hopefully, everything else will follow, no? Kaya lang medyo nagkaroon tayo ng problema ngayon, pero it's okay. At least, I hope na intindihan kung paano na-identify yung null hypothesis, yung alternative hypothesis, kung paano gagawa ng dalawang yon, paano identify kung ito ay left-tailed or right-tailed, one-tailed or two-tailed, at paano makuha ang rejection region. So, sana klaro yun sa atin. Okay? Anong importante para sa rejection region? Importante ang alternative hypothesis. Ano yung sign na ginamit natin doon? Not equal to, greater than, or less than. Kapag ginamit natin less than, ito ay left-tailed. Pag ginamit natin greater than, ito ay right-tailed. At pag ginamit natin not equal to, ito ay two-tailed. So, yan. So, yan. Hanggang dyan na muna tayo. So, continue be a blessing to other people. Thank you so much for listening in our discussion. Yan. Ang active ngayon ni Anne. Okay. Next week, magkita-kita tayo. And it will be our last discussion. So, hopefully, matapos natin to. And then, after that, we can have a little bonding towards the end of our discussion. Pero, ang importante, meron tayong natutunan. At the same time, even though after all the struggles that we encountered this afternoon, I hope you still understand the lesson, no? I hope you were able to imbibe the lesson that we discussed this afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Yan. Hello, Miss Christine Rose Reyes. Yan. Magandang hapon po. And kung may tanong pa, sige po, feel free to chat. Kung wala naman na, yan. I'll see you next week for another Stat and Proba with Teacher Rev. Yan. So, ayan. Buti na lang nag-prepare tayo ng presentation din, no, para sa inyo. Kaya lang, mas prefer ko pa rin talaga tong Mimeo. Okay. But next week, be ready with your calculator because we're going to do computation on how we're going to find the Z value. Okay. Ayan, baka may tanong. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this afternoon session. Sobrang saya ko din na marami tayo. Yes, marami tayong natutunan, no, sa session natin ngayon. At saka, this is something that's not new to us, no? Medyo, wow! Anne is I'm a grade 4 student, ma'am, just to share to everyone, no? So, Anne who keeps on answering the left-tailed, P less than. I thought Anne is already a 4th grade. So, thank you so much for listening, Anne. And you were able to do it, and it's a good job, no? It's a good job. Yan. From CNLES. Yan. I'm proud of you. I know you will be a good statistician. I hope this will be an inspiration to you, Anne. And nice meeting you, Anne. And the others also who had been with us this afternoon. Si Rendel. Yan. Na hindi ko pa nabate, no? Good afternoon and have a great evening, everyone. God bless. See you next week. Bye.